Yes, I'm doing another twofer. Sorry. But as you can see, we are taking a look at Transformers Legacy's two Junkions that we've gotten so far. That is Scraphook and Crashbar in order of release. And as may have been obvious, I don't know, based on how things have been going lately. Also, I did that video with Ridiculous Badger where I did the collection highlight. I've lately been tending to collect figures for specific characters. I like having multiple figures of the same character, but like different figures. That's why I have a Nemesis Prime collection. That's why I have a Megatron shelf, like that kind of thing. So it is a little weird that I decided to get a couple of Junkions when I was still, when I had already decided I wanted to do this, but the reason I decided to do that is both because, Crashbar and Scraphook are just awesome, but also because I look at it as it's kind of like troop building, and in my mind, troop building is just kind of on the fringe of collecting multiples of the same character. I don't intend to get the same mold over and over again and troop build Junkions, but getting more Junkions that have different figures released as time goes on, yes. That said, I haven't entirely decided if I want to go with the Decepticon version of Scraphook. I forget what her name is, but I'm curious about that figure, but at the same time, it's Scraphook with some slight changes, so I'm not sure if I'm going to just keep what I've got here or get rid of Scraphook and get her instead. I don't know. For now, though, I like having Scraphook and Crashbar together because they work well together. Their color schemes are very similar. It's very, very similar oranges and browns and grays and all of that. So I feel like the purple and blue and stuff for the Decepticon figure, I don't know if that would work, but we'll see. I'm undecided. Anyway, Scraphook and Crashbar are these just kind of junker-looking vehicles, which makes sense because Junkions. And as is almost always the case with motorcycle Transformers, Crashbar is proportionally way too big. That's fine, but yeah. Now, as a lot of you are probably aware, these are effectively weaponizers. They pop apart and then can be used as armor and stuff for other characters, other figures. And that's fine. That's not why I got them. But I like how these, what they're doing with the Legacy Junkions, how they work, because they do pop apart and can form armor pieces and weapons and stuff for other characters, but you don't have to take them apart to transform them. That was never a deal breaker with me for the fossilizers and whatever the other ones were called. Weaponizers? I think weaponizers. That was never a deal breaker for me, the parts forming, but I very much appreciate the fact that they managed to engineer these so that they can pull double duty as a proper transforming figure and as what is basically a weaponizer. Now, let's keep looking at them in order of release, so let's get Crashbar out of here. And focus on Scraphook for now. And Scraphook is a very nicely detailed, beat-up truck thing. I don't know. I like it, though. It's strange, but in a way that I like. I love the rivets and spikes everywhere, the window slats that they actually painted black over the lines there. That's really cool. And of course, the really nasty looking fender, bumper, grill section. Even have little molded spike rivets around the wheel wells. It's a fun, cool little vehicle. It's got lots of fun contours. It kind of looks like somebody took a junkyard vehicle and turned it into a battle wagon for a demolition derby. And of course, you've got the hook on the back. So it is basically like a tow truck. And yeah, it looks cool. It hides the robot pretty well. Like there is some junk back here, but it, like I said, hides pretty well. And his transformation, it's a little tricky around the back here where the arms are. You can kind of see the fists right there. But it's actually really interesting, which, you know, when we get to the transformation, I'll go into more detail. But yeah, I like the contours. I like the details on the truck. It's a nice little truck that rolls pretty reasonably well, considering the fact that the way that this is designed, the tires roll around the rims on all four wheels. And I think they did that because you got the 5mm ports, and that's for like the, you know, weaponizing and whatnot. So yeah, it rolls pretty well considering how the wheels are constructed. One thing that I'm a little bit bummed about is the orange paint on mine. It wasn't given a second coat, it looks like, on this side, because this engine that's sticking out actually comes out and you've got each half becomes like a gun, basically. And this one definitely could use some extra paint. It didn't quite go through, but at the same time, it kind of like, it's a little bit annoying that it's not the right tone, and it's very obvious that it's not the right tone, but this is a Junkion. I feel like that being slightly off actually works. So it's fine. Now, yeah, that's about all I can really say about Scraphook for now. But again, really cool truck. I like the color palette here too. Like the orange and brown and gray just work really well together. And the same can be said for Crashbar, who is an overly large motorcycle, but you know, that's how motorcycles and Transformers are. And yeah, the Crashbar is really interesting. And also he's got his head sticking out there. Like the way he transforms is also really interesting and cool. And there's something, I don't know, I just really appreciate how they found a way to have a robot turn into a motorcycle and have it work as a motorcycle without making it look like it works as a robot, but it also doesn't like, I'm having trouble finding the right words here. Basically, the way that motorcycle transformers tend to work, you either end up getting a very slender robot in order to make the motorcycle work as a motorcycle, or you get a bulky robot with an overly bulky motorcycle. And I really like how, in the case of Crashbar, they found a pretty decent middle ground where the robot isn't really skinny. Like it's not super bulky, but it's not really skinny. But then the motorcycle, it's a little bit bulked out, especially at the back here. But a lot of the mass of the motorcycle is actually believable as a motorcycle. Like this feels like this isn't like a sports racing motorcycle type structure. This is more of like a, you know, big, heavy, I don't know what the proper terminology is, but whatever that kind of motorcycle is, that's more designed for like long distance and whatnot, like not so much racing. I feel like that works really well for this. It also, aside from the fact that the head is very much right there, it also hides the robot mode pretty well, I feel like, even though what you're looking at here is pretty much all robot. Like his foot becomes the front of the bike. It's really cool how they did all this. And yes, there is some parts forming on Crashbar. There is some on Scraphook too, but it's all like in service of both modes, and it's for like weapons and stuff. So I don't really count it as like real parts forming. Also, you can kind of see, you know, if you know where you're looking, his fists are right there too. The color scheme again is really good. It kind of matches what we saw with Scraphook, except you've got darker gray for the seat and kind of a shinier, brighter, metallic-y orange and yellow for the, I think that's supposed to be the fuel tank. But like it still kind of hits the same aesthetic notes, especially where you've got these little spikes and rivets and stuff in different places. So yeah, I really like how these two look together, and I like how they ended up working out, all things considered. Now, they are deluxes, so as you can see next to each other, they are pretty much the same size. And if we put them next to other stuff, bring these in here. Whoops. Bumped Rotor Storm's head. I'm sorry, buddy. go. And there we go. And there we go. So, looking at them next to another deluxe, it's pretty comparable. I mean, the scale is definitely off. Like, definitely off. But they are comparable in overall mass, I feel. And again, I've said this before, Burnout is not like a huge deluxe. She's kind of not small, but she's not huge. Anyway, get all of these out of here. Bring in our boy. There he is. You all can't hear it, but our absolutely horrible upstairs neighbors are really making a lot of noise tonight. Anyway, they're there with the duck tank. Okay, so for the transformations, we are going to stick with release order and start with Scraphook. Now, you don't have to take everything off of Scraphook in order to transform him, but I'm going to do it just to make it a little easier. So first going to disconnect the tow hook, and I kind of like how they put the peg off center so that when you peg it into the back here, it actually keeps it centered on the truck. That's pretty cool. So take that off, take off the spiky spare tire thing on the back, and then these smokestack things can also be pulled off. And we'll just keep those off to the side. Now, to transform the arms, it's actually surprisingly easier to do if you just keep the back kind of its own thing, because you can unpeg it from here, and when you transform the arms, you can actually transform it like this and then bring it in like this, and that's just a little bit easier than trying to like transform it and then bring these flaps down. But anyway, I'm gonna pop this open and then split this bit in the center. And now pull this out and around and uncurl one of the arms, then straighten this out. And same deal over here, bring that out and unhinge this, straighten that out, and bring this out for now like this. And might as well rotate at the bicep. So there you can see the upper torso of the robot's pretty much ready to go. Now, going to wiggle the front down a bit so we can pull out these flaps. And these actually, this bit sits behind this little section here, but more importantly, this slot on the inside of the door tabs into what is the side of the thigh. So that's what you really need to disconnect. So when you untab that, that frees all of that up. Now can swing the legs down and might as well split them. If it'll let me, they peg in very firmly. Come on. I'm gonna have to use behind the camera strength on this one, I think. There we go. So, legs just pop apart. And now from here, you can just double hinge this section down and out to make the foot. But I'm actually going to, for now at least, remove this piece. It just unpegs from there, and this will become one of his guns. Same deal here, and you don't have to transform the leg first, you can't just unpeg it. But there's that, and now again from this angle you can see this hinges down and forward. And it's kind of up to interpretation. You can hinge this way forward if you want to give him like kind of a slightly shorter stature and big clown feet, or you can hinge it more like that so that the feet look a little bit more normal and it gives him much bigger heels, and it also makes him stand a little bit taller. That's generally how I prefer to do it. So with that done, now we've got all this going on. Now this is what's really cool. I like how the whatever section of the truck actually becomes the torso by kind of turning inside out. So you flip this up, and now this section that is part of the windows also flips around, and that's where the head is. And with that flipped around, these flaps come in and actually overlap each other, tuck in, and clean up the back. Now the torso, whoop. Yeah, that's the downside to dealing with a figure that's designed to come apart. Sometimes it comes apart. So I'm going to just angle these out a little bit so I can bring this chest up. And with the chest up, these sections will swing back in and actually peg into the sides of the head platform to kind of lock everything together. So bring that in and tab that in, and that will keep this from being able to swing back inside the body, which I think is a really nice engineering step. It's nice that they thought of that. Also forgot to rotate the fists, because you want to rotate the fists out like this for the truck mode. So with all that rotated out, rotate him at the waist, and that is Scraphook in his basic robot mode. Now we've got all of this stuff to attach to him, and there are different official and unofficial ways to do it. The way they want you to do it is they want you to peg these bits, I believe, into the wheels to give him like this kind of look, which is fine. You can do that, and I'm not opposed to doing that. But what I like to do is actually mix it up a little bit because it's a Junkion. So I'll peg one of these into the leg to kind of change the bulk of the leg. Then peg the other one up here. I actually leave this where it is for truck mode, so that kind of bulks that out a little bit. Or if you wanted to, of course, you could peg this going around this way. Actually, now that I think about it, this is how I do it. So yeah, peg it into the shoulder like that. The hook can peg into the forearm, or peg into the back, or peg into the shoulder. The wheel piece I actually like to peg in here, but you can peg it into the forearm as like a buckler or something like that. And then the guns, you can just put them in his hand. What I like to do is do one connected to the forearm and then one in the same hand, so it kind of looks like he's got just one big, very armed arm, and then he's got this going on here. But again, you can mix and match parts in all kinds of ways. The one thing that disappoints me about Scraphook, though, that I wish they had done, and I've seen other people echo this sentiment too, is I really wish, because the hook is a separate piece. You want to be careful when taking it out because, you know, thin piece of plastic here, but this is a separate piece. It would be wonderful if the hand could unpeg and you could peg it in as like a hook hand. You can't do that. As you can see, the fist is a mushroom peg. So you could take the fist off, but you wouldn't be able to attach this there, and that seems like a horribly missed opportunity. I feel like they really could have done something special with that, but oh well. So there we go. There is Scraphook in his robot mode, and we will see more of him later. I have some issues with it, but you know, we will see more of him later. But first, we have to transform Crashbar. Crashbar's transformation is really interesting too. So first want to disconnect these pipes, and they tab in here, right in there, and then peg into the bottoms of the fist. So kind of rotate that out and then unplug it. And same on this side. And those can go off to the side. And now these kind of saddlebag things on the side also unplug. They plug into the back wheel section and to the engine. And I kind of like how this works because they blend in pretty well, but they're also kind of necessary to shore up the motorcycle mode. They just kind of keep it a little bit more solid. So I like that. And then that can go off to the side. And now the rest of this is robots. So I'm going to straighten this out, straighten that out. It doesn't really peg in, but move this out. And now this will double hinge, and I'm holding it here because, you know, weaponizer type thing. This is designed to unplug. But this double hinges, you can see the hinge in there, and that will just snap into place right there. and rotate it to the front. You can tell what the front is because screw hole, or rather stand peg hole in the back. And now this comes up like that, and that gives us a foot. Really simple. This one, a little bit more complicated, but you want to untab the fuel tank from the backs of the elbows. It actually tabs in to these little slots right in there. So untab that, and much like the other leg, this double hinges out, snaps into place, rotate it. Now this is really cool, I like this. The front section with the light swings up all the way, and then the handlebars tuck in. And that forms another foot, and this just rotates up and kind of sits into the cavity of the fuel tank. And there we've got two legs. Crashbar now has legs. And you want to take the engine block and rotate it 90 degrees. I find when going into motorcycle mode, it's really easy to remember what direction to spin this, because you want these tabs for the arms facing the fuel tank. So basically whatever leg is the fuel tank side, that's where you want to turn this. And I say whatever side because, you know, you can totally unplug things and plug them in on other sides if that's what you want to do, because the ankle tilt goes both ways on both legs. And again, I appreciate having those options. Anyway, with that done, you can swing the arms around. They actually peg into slots on the back. So swing those around, and there you can see there's like a little divot back there and the peg there. That swings around and kind of softly snaps into place. And then open up the arms, and this is also kind of cool, the way it curls up. The fist goes right around the spike on the shoulder. It's just, I don't know, that's a neat idea. I like how they did that. Same deal here. Rotate the fist around. And lastly, there's the head on this little platform here. You just grab this little tab, pull on that to try and swing the head up. Come on, head. Why aren't you coming up? Come on. Why is Crashbar's head not coming out? This might require a tool. There we go. That was weird. Anyway, once the head is free enough, you can pull it up and it will kind of click softly into place so that the platform stays in place while you move the head. So that's also pretty nice. And now that is Crashbar's base robot mode, but to finish off the look, you want to take these pieces and plug them into the back, using those ports back there so that the pipes are poking up over his shoulders, like so. And then these just they just peg into the fists to become guns. But we could do more with these later. But there we have Crashbar. And now there we have Crashbar and Scraphook in their respective robot modes. And again, they look really good together. And I also appreciate the fact that while they were roughly the same size in vehicle mode, Crashbar is a motorcycle, Scraphook is a truck, and so in robot mode, Scraphook is a little bit taller and a little bit bulkier looking. I just think that's kind of a cool change up. And I really like these guys. They definitely have some drawbacks, like the fact that the limbs can pop off a little bit easier than I'd like. But because of the way they're designed, you can also do cool stuff like pop off their arms and switch them around. And that I just think is kind of fun. And because these are supposed to be Junkions, it works so much better, at least thematically, than like the weaponizers. The thing that kind of stinks with these guys, though, is their legs are not the same heights. So if I plug Crashbar's legs into Scraphook, you can see they're not quite matched up. That does kind of disappoint me. I wish that they were a little bit, I wish that they fit a little bit better. Also, Scraphook's arm is a little bit too loose in Crashbar's shoulder. Yeah, there you can kind of see they're a little lopsided if you just do one leg. Seems like a missed opportunity for me, but oh well. I still appreciate the fact that you can do it. And as I said, when you look at them together, they look like they're, you know, part of the same faction, part of the same team, even though their colors are a bit different. I mean, you still have like a lot of the same oranges and grays. You don't really get the same browns in most instances on Crashbar. Like Scraphook's browns are a little bit darker, just a little bit darker. And also Crashbar's colors are much more into the dark gray and orange than the yellow, or rather than the browns. And Crashbar gets more of this yellow. Like this was kind of visible as the engine, but when he transforms, now you really see the yellow. And that helps to set him apart from Scraphook. Which, honestly, I like Scraphook a lot, but I definitely think Crashbar wears the colors better because of the way that the coloring in the chest is mixed up a little bit more. Scraphook, it's like, you know, red chest, which looks good, but then you've got this gray plank leading into a gray face, and like the brown on the head is the same as the brown on the shoulders. It just doesn't stand out as well. Having this shock of metallic yellow in Crashbar's chest really helps to separate the head from everything else going on around it, even though it does have the same yellow or same oranges, similar dark browns, actually very similar dark browns to Scraphook, like that kind of thing. But I really like them, and I also really like how the their shapes are so kind of weird. I'm not entirely sure though why Crashbar's not standing quite straight. Okay, I think I needed to adjust his foot a little bit. There we go. He was kind of leaning to the side a little bit. But yeah, these two are really cool. It's just seeing them side by side, Scraphook does look a little bit drab in terms of the deco. But they are fun, and they're covered in lots of detail. And also, surprisingly, there's not a lot of new detail that's revealed. Like Scraphook, you basically get this section here, but it's not really showing much. Like there's some nice molding in the waist section, and the chest has some nice molding, but like this was the truck, this was the truck, this is the truck. So he doesn't reveal a ton of new stuff. Crashbar, same deal. It's pretty much all the motorcycle with just like the chest being revealed and the head. But I also think that's cool. So that's fine. And as with Scraphook, one of the things I like to do with Crashbar is actually mix up the weapons a little bit. So I keep the one gun in his hand, but then peg this gun in here, so that way it kind of makes it look more like he has just one big gun hand. And of course you can also mix things up a bit more, like this way, may have been this way. No, maybe not. I'm trying to remember how I had this configured before. I probably should have made a note of it, but whatever. Point is, because of the modular nature, you can do all kinds of stuff with these. You can peg the guns into the shoulders if you want to do that, like that, or like this, or like this, because he's got pegs everywhere. And yeah, I don't know, it's just cool. I really like how you can change things up and make them asymmetric. Oh wait, that's right. I'm silly. I forgot. Completely forgot. The way I actually do Crashbar is I peg the guns on this side to make it look like he's got one giant gun or a gun arm. And then I actually do something with a bit that has no use in vehicle mode or anything like that. It's kind of like just I think it's just for the coming apart weaponizer style gimmick, but this tire in the front here, or back rather, can open up. You pull this down, open this up. It's on little hinges, as you can see, and then unpeg this from here, and then just close this back up, and that just sits where it normally does. Now this can peg into the forearm to become kind of a shield, but more so than that, you'll notice this little seam going down the middle. You get a nail in there and pull on it, and it's geared. This turns into a saw blade thing, not unlike Animated Prowl's shurikens, except bigger than just one tire. But yeah, you can totally give Crashbar a giant cannon arm and like a bladed shield thing, and that's just so cool. I really like how fun these guys are to mess around with. Now, let's take a look at head sculpts real quick. So, Scraphook has a really nice head sculpt. It's just, as I said, the colors involved, they're kind of muted and they kind of blend into what's going on in the immediate area around it. Just, since I can, I'm just going to take his arms off so we can see the head a little bit easier. The sculpt is really nice. I like that he's got this kind of grizzled beard look, the eye patch. It's got kind of like an impactor mohawk going almost, and it looks really nice. Articulation-wise, it just looks left and right. It doesn't nod up and down or left or side to side. It's just on a swivel, but that's fine. The arms, as you saw, can come unplugged, but you get that 360 rotation, you get in and out motion, you get a bicep swivel, you get a double joint because of the way the transformation works, but it doesn't really get you a ton. Like, you can come in more than 90, but it really doesn't do a whole lot. And then you get wrist swivels, which is nice. You also, for the transformation, but also probably just because, I'm assuming, you get waist swivel, you get over 90 degrees forward on the hips, 90 degrees back. I'll get rid of this again just to make sure. Okay, 90 degrees out on the hip. You get, you don't get a thigh swivel, but you get a swivel just above the knee. You can see where that cut is for the knee, and it's just, it plugs in right there, and that's where the swivel comes from. And then, of course, you can bend that knee, and that knee gets you 90 degrees. And the feet, you can go up and down because of all the hinges in there, and you get some pretty nice tilt that's actually softly ratcheted. So that's actually kind of cool. So yeah, Scraphook's, bring that forward a little bit. The geometry was getting in the way of the ankle tilt there. Scraphook's articulation is pretty good. The thing that kind of bums me out about him, though, is the placement of the shoulder joints and the shape of the upper arms does kind of throw me a little bit. I feel like these should sit more up here to give him like more of like a shoulder padded look, and the arms should come down a little further from the bicep. It's fine, it just seems a little off to me. But he's a Junkion, so seeming a little off also, again, makes sense. So that is Scraphook's articulation. Crashbar's articulation, similar, but as we saw for the transformation, the head is actually on a ball joint. The ball joint is sitting inside the torso. It's not that the ball joint's going into the head, it's that the head has a ball joint going down. So you get some pretty nice up and down and turn and left and right tilt. So he's got a really expressive head joint. You get the 360 rotation on the arms, unless these bits get in the way, but you can also remove them or just move them. And of course, as we saw, the arms can unplug. You get almost 90 degrees out. You get a bicep swivel. You get really nice elbow bend because of the transformation. And you also get wrist swivels, which also are used in the transformation. You get a waist swivel, which is also used in the transformation, and it's really tight on my figure for some reason. The hips can go forward a little bit past 90, can go back to past 90 if the wheel's not bumping into things. And then out, again, just going to take the arm off. Can go past 90 if there's no obstructions. You get that swivel just above the knee, which again is a point that can disconnect. I will say Crashbar's joints, the legs pop off a little easier than I'd like, and Scraphook, the arms pop off a little easier than I'd like, so it's kind of each one has its thing. As for the knees, on this leg, if you leave the wheel where it is, you don't really get much of a knee bend, but if you get the wheel out of the way, you can get 90 degrees. Can you get further if you disconnect? Yes. Okay, if you disconnect that joint that's necessary for the transformation, you can get an even deeper knee bend, but I'm not sure it's worth the cost. But you can do it. And then this foot, with that wheel out of the way and on the arm, you can get to that 90-degree bend without, or almost 90-degree bend without any trouble because the wheel doesn't get in the way. And you can also disconnect it and all that. And then for the feet, this foot, you get some forward and back. It just brings the tire with it. And you get ankle tilts. And if you want, you can also move the toe. The handlebars do get in the way of the downward motion, but if you split the handlebars open, then you can angle the toe down if you want. So that is an option. This leg, you don't really get much in the way of forward and backward motion unless you move this whole thing, but you can do it. And then the toe itself can actually move up and down. And you get ankle tilt, which is not as pronounced on this foot as it is on the other one, but given what's going on here, I feel like that makes sense. And that is it for Crashbar's articulation. And I really, really do like these guys. I love how much it kind of encourages you to play around with asymmetrical stuff. Now, as for how they stack up, let's bring in our size comparisons again. I mean, they're deluxes, so it stands to reason that they're not going to be massive. But here they are with our regular size comparisons. And you can see if we bring them both up a little bit closer to Burnout, Burnout does stand a bit taller than Crashbar, and she is a little bit shorter than Scraphook, but Scraphook's height is variable depending on how you do those feet too, so that's something to keep in mind. So yeah, they are both a pretty decent size, I'd say. And then, of course, here are the, there we go. Here are the Junkion boys with the duck tank. Now, I should also admit, I should admit this to you all, that another reason why I wanted to get a bunch of Junkions, which I also have, I have my eye on Voyager Junkheap. I haven't jumped on them yet, but I've been eyeballing them for a while because I'm not enough of a Wreck-Gar fan to really, I wasn't really enamored with Wreck-Gar, but I thought Junkheap had an interesting visual style, so I might get Junkheap eventually, I don't know. Point is, because I'm a massive nerd, one of the things that I really wanted to do, one of the reasons why I really wanted to get a bunch of Junkions is so I could put them on display and say, this is my junk shelf. I know, it's sad, but that's just what I was thinking. Anyway, that is going to do it for Legacy, Crashbar, and Scraphook. They are really cool. They're fun to mess around with, and as you can probably tell, I'm not going to be showing off their armor weapon connectivity because I just don't want to. I'm sorry. And also, I'm looking at them more as, how they work as standalone toys. And I feel like as standalones, they're great. I love the fact that they've got interchangeable bits between each other, which, I mean, technically all these 5mm compatible things are interchangeable across all the figures that have it, but you know what I mean. The only thing that disappoints me about interchanging the limbs is the fact that they're not the same height. It just annoys me, probably more than it should, that if I want to swap legs on either of them, I have to swap both legs. That just seems like a missed opportunity. But aside from that, they are pretty great. Oh, actually, just realized we never looked at Crashbar's face. So yeah, Crashbar has a really nice face. I love the little goatee and the red glasses and the horns, and it's proper Junkion look for me. I like that. And as I said, it stands out against the yellow of the torso. But anyway, yes, I really like these guys. I really hope they do more, and I don't mean repaints. I hope we get more actual, like, individual Junkion molds in this line because they're really fun. I just want more of them. I'm not normally a Junkion guy, but these are making me a Junkion guy. But that's what I think. So what do you all think? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and I still haven't figured out the outro, so I have links in the description of this video as well as a lot of my newer stuff for the Shozy Discord. They've been Shozy, incidentally, if you're not aware, it's a toy shop, toy website based out of China, and they are awesome. I've ordered a lot of my third-party stuff from them lately, and they have great prices, free shipping most of the time, at least to the US, great customer service, and they set up a Discord, and I have a Discord link for their Discord down in the description, where if you follow that link and join their Discord using that link, it earns me 50 points in the store that I can then use as store credit to go towards future toy purchases. So if you are so inclined to check out a pretty cool group of Transformers toy enthusiasts and possibly get in on some occasional sales from this overseas shop and whatnot, and you don't mind giving me a little bit of support in the meantime, that is an option. Not necessary, but I'd appreciate it if you did. And yeah, that is pretty much it. So again, thank you all for watching, and I don't know what the next figure is going to be. We'll see what happens.